Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. That's right, this is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. Happy to be here with you once again. For those who have not been here before, we do long-form political commentary on the program, talking about the issues that are affecting us all on any given day. And on every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you talking about all the issues that matter, whatever's on your thoughts, directly letting your voice be heard. So today, we're looking at what's going on, and it's kind of interesting because I spent the morning, like many mornings, listening to the various talk shows, the talk news programs, starting with the local program in my region, which has become very, very biased, and then going on into the national. And a lot of people have been talking about Dominion voting systems. And it's quite interesting, and it was catching my attention because I see a lot of focus right now. Everyone has come into and focused on the Dominion voting system. So let me be clear what that is. It was found in Michigan, at least in one county, that there was an error because of the Dominion voting system that took all of the votes, 6,000 votes, for President Trump and gave them to Vice President Biden. Now, that was eventually found and that was corrected, and the votes were given back to President Trump. That turned around that county, and I believe in that county that resulted in a Republican who had thought he had lost to actually becoming the victor in a local election. So this is a big deal. Local elections have been affected by this Dominion voting software. Dominion voting systems, that software is in 28 states. There are hundreds of counties that are involved in this. Actually, I should say tens of counties that have the Dominion voting system. Now, when I was listening to all that, I also came across something else because, well, one of the first things I did is I went over to, a little ahead of myself. I went over to check out the trend, and it is the number 2 trending story. Now, that's interesting by itself, and I'm hearing about it on, say, Rush Limbaugh and other news, but I stopped and I said to myself, hang on, I got a notice from YouGov, the polling YouGov, YouTube votes, and I got this message. They asked me about the survey, a scientific survey they were conducting of 1,500 voters, which included myself, and they were asking about, was there enough voter fraud to affect or influence the election outcome? Now, this is coming at the same time that we're hearing Dominion voting systems having an error, a problem. And it's a big deal because it affected local elections. So it's something that you would think people would be investigating. Now, the thing that surprised me is 40% of voters, according to YouGov, the YouGov poll, said that there was enough of voter fraud to influence the election. Now, right there, I would say, why, if we need, how can we not do recounts and investigate all of these claims of 11,000 affidavits saying that there's voting irregularities? We see, well, I'm going to get into that, but, the dead being registered to vote and possibly voting, missing ballots, all kinds of things. Why wouldn't we look into that? How could we not look into that? But the thing that really caught me and made me want to speak about this a little bit is we also saw that 68% of all of the voters, including myself, thought there was more than 40% of the nation that would be concerned about the voting irregularities. That more than 40% of our nation would be sitting there saying, this is a problem, and we need to bring back credibility to our elections. Even if only 40% of the nation believes there could have been enough of a problem to change an election. at the local, state, or federal level, then we need to investigate that. We need our elections to be understood as being universally fair and honest. Well, that led me to look into that Dominion voting system story. And when I did that, I found that according to McCall.com, their answer is, and this is the thing leading the Google searches at the moment, nope, there is no widespread problem with the voting machines, Dominion voting machines. Here's the interesting thing. When you look through the story, you will not see a single statement from McCall saying that they checked or that there has been a check of the voting systems in the 28 states in the nation. They mention 3. But where's the rest of it? What about besides Michigan? And now we found in Georgia, because 2 days ago, everyone was just talking about the voting in Michigan, the flip of the one county in Michigan. Now we know there's 2 counties in Michigan. And now we know that there's a county in Georgia, at least 1. What about everywhere else? Why hasn't there been a call for all 28 states? Why have we not checked it in every single location this has been in to see if there are any voting irregularities? It's a really great question. And McCall never bothered to ask that or to let the public know if they did find that out. Now, at the same time, we're seeing that another story is breaking, and it's related to this in a way, because now we see that Twitter has basically, we believe, wiped out ICE. The ICE no longer exists. Their website, their tweets that were on another government agency appears to have been removed by Twitter because of their political bias. Not a lot of people are talking about that. But how is that related? Well, let me get to it. We also, and I want you to remember, we have an environment right now where we have seen individuals like Jennifer Rubin, who stated on November 6th that any Republican now promoting rejection of an election or calling to not follow the will of voters or making baseless allegations of fraud should never serve in office, join a corporate board, find a faculty position, or be accepted into polite society. We have a list. Now, I want to stop on that for a second. They have a list. This is really important. This is really important because it's a statement and it's been repeated by many people, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which I will be getting into. But we've heard them say from the progressive left that any of the Trump supporters need to be punished. Republicans and conservatives need to be punished. Anyone not complying with their will needs to be punished. At the same time, we see a massive rush by the news media and the left to say, well, Joe Biden is the president-elect, even though no vote has been certified, and that we need to go forward with the process to put him into power, even though he can't possibly take power until January 20th. So something is going on. We have an environment where people are being told, don't speak up, don't ask questions, don't investigate anything, move forward the way we want you to, and if you do, we'll be nice. Otherwise, we're going to attack you, and by the way, we have you on a list, and that list is going to be used for some unknown reason. And I have to say, when I consider the progressive left, when I think of Antifa and what it has done, the murders it has committed, I'm not thinking that they're going to send us Christmas cards. That's just my thought. But I could be wrong. So let's go back. And I want you to remember, we were talking about this on November 6th on our program in our live stream. And we showed you that there is proof that there is a list, something that they've modified and hidden from the public. But as the New York Post mentions, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is facing heat because she wanted to archive an archive of online postings by Trump sycophants. Is anyone, she goes on to say, and it is quoted, quote, she says, is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? Now, let me ask a question. What's complicity? Because I don't know, supported my president? Because we wanted the best for America from our president? Because maybe we cheered on when we had a record low unemployment rate for women, for blacks, for Hispanics? We had an incredible growth of our economy because we may have supported the fact that our president helped lead the nation to a V-shaped recovery with 33% growth in the third quarter. Are these the things she's talking about that makes you a sycophant and makes you accountable? So much so that you may be on this list, which is the TrumpAccountability.net. And by the way, they keep changing the background picture because this is a picture from the Obama era. This is Obama who did this. In fact, what is it? It was the statement from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The world should never forget those who, when faced with a decision, chose to put their money, their time, and their reputations behind, and I want to be clear, separating children from their families. That was President Obama who did that. And that was the Obama-Biden administration. Encouraging racism. That would be BLM and Antifa. That would be President Obama who supported that. That would be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Chaz in Seattle. These are the areas, Portland, that we saw this. It was the Democrats who supported increasing racism, creating safe spaces, segregating schools, taking over property, going to people's homes and telling them because of the color of their skin, they must give up that home and their property and their income and give it to another group of people based on the color of their skin. We have reported that repeatedly. And anti-Semitism, that would be BLM, that would be Representative Ilhan Omar, that would be Rashida Tlaib, and negligently causing the unnecessary loss of life, that could be President Obama, if you're thinking about the drone strikes throughout the world, record numbers of drone strikes that he had, and the wars that he had ongoing. By the way, wars that really have no new wars started under President Trump. We have had 3 Nobel Peace Prize nominations for President Trump because he has increased the net peace in the Middle East, something that President Obama did not do. And she goes on to say, and economic devastation from our country's failed response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, that would be, Governor Andrew Cuomo. 12,000 nursing home deaths that he was responsible for. A loss of 20% of the businesses in New York State and going higher. He just recently, as we reported yesterday, decided to limit the hours of bars and restaurants, gyms, and bowling alleys, locations that many of them just opened up because they were going to go bankrupt. And he goes around and he's now limiting their hours and telling people that they are not capable of having people in their home. A Fourth Amendment violation, which we went into in some detail yesterday. That's economic devastation. All of this that she's identified, those are all Democratic issues. But they're going to attack the Republican Party and never forget and come after Republicans for their support of improving the nation with a list that we have no idea what it's going to be used for. You know, that's incredibly troubling, And we've seen this take on massive proportions. But I want to go back to the YouGov because they said, remember, 68% of the nation believes that there's more fraud and more people should be looking at the fraud and being concerned about whether it affected elections. And I say from local to state to federal. We also went into another question with them. And that is, we were asked again by YouGov for a poll, do you think election fraud occurred in your state? Now, since 40% of the public said that they believed election fraud occurred, you would think, well, this would be a pretty high number. And I know I'm in New York State. The answer is absolutely yes. And only 26% of respondents, again, those 1,500 people, believed that it's happening. 62% said no, not in their state. You know, that's an encouraging thought. It is an encouraging thought, but it's not exactly correct. Because, I mean, it was only recently that we were talking about how the numbers didn't make sense. Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin were all still up in the air. That we had seen, that it was just a month ago that we heard Biden say, it was just a little while ago that we heard Joe Biden.
Vice President Biden.
Come on.
Final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. And here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not?
Okay, so that's a very interesting statement.
It's the same process. It's on it.
Okay, that's Joe Biden, in his own words, saying that we need to do a count, that we need to make sure everything is fair. And of course, all the links are going to be in the description and on YouTube for this. But it just drives me crazy. And we know that there's a problem. Now, again, only 26%, according to YouGov polling, say that we saw problems in their state. But what about the states where we didn't see it? That weren't your particular state. I mean, there's like New York State, where on November 2nd, before the election, we find that the New York Post reporting that dead people were caught voting in New York City. That there were people who were 105 that were trying to vote. That there was an individual who was 101 trying to vote. Now, this is not exclusive to just New York State, not in the least, because we also saw that another watchdog group on November 6th, according to the Free Beacon, 21,000 dead people were registered to vote in Pennsylvania in the final weeks of the election. 21,000 people. That there was, as of October, 7,900. As of October 7th, there were 9,212 registrants who had been dead for 5 years. This is a ridiculous number. We saw that in Nevada, that the GOP had found at least 3,062 instances of voter fraud. Now, this is a big deal. Because again, I go back to, this is 26% say you know what? There is no fraud in their state. But yet, 40% of Americans said that this is something that's going on and needs to be investigated, and it's affecting our elections. These are big deals. Even though we are told consistently, day after day, from the New York Times, that it didn't happen. This is November 10th. November 10th, from the New York Times, they said they've called every official in every state, and no evidence of voter fraud existed. Let me go back through that for you. We have voter fraud that is in the people caught dead voting in New York City. We have 21,000 dead people in Pennsylvania. We have 3,062 people in Nevada. How can you say you called every state and there is no evidence of voter fraud? I've just shown you 3. And we know for a fact that the Dominion issue has affected several states. And that's why it happens to be the number 2 most searched term at this moment. How can the New York Times say this? You know how they can say this? Because there is a list for people who do not comply. There is a list for people who are asking questions. There is a list for people who are not submitting to the will of the Democratic Party and the progressives within that party. There is a list of individuals who are going to be held accountable. There is a list of people who aren't being like Ken Oberman, as he says that Trump must be expunged, that his enablers, that would be the voters, that may be you, that may be your mother, your brother, your sister, your father, your neighbors, the people you work with, the Mike Lees, the William Barrs, the Sean Hannitys, and the Mike Pences, and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society. This is from a direct racist lunatic, Keith Olbermann, in my opinion. And we see this being said again in a less racist, less psychopathic way by Jennifer Rubin. Again, she says the same thing. Because anyone who rejects her thoughts, the thoughts of the New York Times, they can't be accepted into polite society. What was it that Oberman said? And removed from our society. They can't be accepted by polite society. They have to be put onto a list so that we can always remember what they did and so that we can take action. Because there is no other problem going on, no matter what evidence you may have. Even though people are looking for that evidence, there's nothing to see. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. You know what? Maybe the YouGov poll is wrong. 60% of America says, you know what? There wasn't enough fraud to have an election. Now, mind you, they didn't say there was no fraud. There wasn't enough fraud to change the election results. That's what the YouGov poll said. Let me bring it back up just to make sure we're all on the same page. They found that 40% of voters think there was enough voter fraud to influence election outcomes. Yeah, 60% didn't think there was enough of the voter fraud. We all accept that there may be voter fraud going on. Why can't we ask the question? Because when we asked Biden about it, he said, take the time, count the votes. We're asking people to take the time to count the votes. And when we're asking that, which is the American system that believes in the credibility, well, we're being told you can't and you're on a list and you need to be removed from polite society. The distraction right now is everyone's focused on Dominion voting systems. I've just shown you 3 sources that all cited the dead are voting. In addition to the fact that Dominion voting systems which is in 28 states, has had problems. And we have seen that problem go from one county in one state to now 3 issues in 2 states. And we don't know how many more, because the system is being rushed forward to say, don't stop, don't think, just go with the flow, or else. Dominion is the excuse, because it may not be all of the voting systems, but there are problems. And the fact that we are watching people tell us to rush forward, to not take that into account, to not stop and think about that, and that if you do, you too will be put onto a list to be punished at some future date for daring to have an opinion in America, a land where we are supposedly free to make whatever choice we want, that is troubling. Now, you may disagree with me. You may think that that's incorrect. There may be other issues you believe. Perhaps you think the YouGov poll got it wrong, or maybe you think they got it right. You have the ability, please, reach us out to us on YouTube, on Facebook, to leave us your comments. Please share and like the video if you think it made sense, if it was of interest to you. And of course, come visit us on Sunday for our live stream at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that you can add your voice on this and other issues to let us know what you think. But until that time, we thank you for watching the video. We hope you're going to be well, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you.